publicity for the United States and for NASA if we could get the Apollo 11 crew and Lindbergh together at the same time at our annual symposium. And his response was, Bob Hoover, he said, do you know how to use up the tickets of your friendship? He said, I can't do that. The Apollo 11 crew is just getting out of quarantine. The day before, they came back from the moon and they put them in quarantine for 30 days. And he said, they're just getting out the day before. You're asking them to be out in California. I can't pull that off. He said, they haven't been with their families. I said, listen, this is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened in our lifetime, getting these two groups together. I said, you just call up the right people, and if you can't, I will at the White House, and we'll get an airplane to bring their families out with them to Los Angeles. And he said, by golly, he said, you know how to pull the strings. And I said, Dick, I think it would be a marvelous thing for everybody. Well, I called Lindbergh and I said, the Apollo 11 crew are coming out. And I said, this is a perfect time for you to come back into notoriety. He said, I don't want notoriety. And I said, well, you want to be an honorary member, this is the only way you're going to get it. I said, he wanted me to bring him up behind the Beverly Hilton Hotel and sneak him in with security people and through the back door, and thought he could get the award and walk out. Well, it didn't work that way. I said, you could come in the front door. Nobody's seen you in 30 years. I said, I didn't recognize you because I was looking at pictures of 30 years ago. And I said, they won't even know who you are. You can come in the front door. It's a black tie event, and there'll be 1,000+ people there in black ties. And I said, you walk in the front door, nobody will even know who you are. And he said, you really believe that, don't you? I said, I know so. I said, I'm going to be waiting for you by the front door. And you just walk right in. And so he had a friend of his that he'd flown airmail with. He was an elderly gentleman. Dropped him off, and he came through the front door, and I was waiting for him. And he said, where are you taking me? And I said, I'm taking you up to the presidential suite. I said, I'm hosting a party, and I've got a lot of my friends there, Bob Hope, and I had the governor, and a lot of people, Baron Hilton, and his father Conrad. And well, anyway, it was a great gathering of people who were all friends of mine. And he said, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, now look, I've got a real problem. I'm master of ceremonies for this whole evening, and I've got a lot of things I've got to worry about. He said, the first thing you're going to do for me is sit down in your room, and I'm going to give my speech to you. And I said, yes, sir. And I said, then after you do that, may I please take you into the suite, which is next to my room, and meet my friends before we go down to the ballroom. And he said, sure. So I sat there and I listened to the most boring speech you've ever heard in your life. It was about preservation. It had nothing to do with aviation. And I sat there and I listened, and he said, well, what do you think? I said, oh, it was great. It was just wonderful. Now, let's go into the suite. Well, I opened the door, and one of the things he'd been pounding on me about, no pictures, no photographs. Well, Bob Hope always had his cameraman with him wherever he went, at any social events and every place else. Well, first thing, his cameraman was right there to get a picture as soon as I opened the door. And I put my shoulder in front of the camera, and I said, Bob, please do me a favor, ask your cameraman to go outside. I said, Mr. Lindbergh doesn't want any pictures taken. And he said, I'll honor that, Bob. And so he sent the man outside, and I introduced him around. And we went down to the ballroom. Nobody recognized him. And I seated him at the table near the stage, and my wife was on one side of him, and Neil Armstrong was on the other side of my wife, and I was sitting next to Neil. Well, people started coming by the table to get Neil's autograph, and Lindbergh, they didn't know who Lindbergh was or that he was even there. And so he leaned across my wife, in front of my wife, and said to Neil, "You're going to regret signing all of those autographs." And Neil very politely said, "Sir," he said, "these pilots have all risked their life as much as I have, and if they want my autograph, they're going to get it." And he kept right on signing. Well, when I introduced him and he came up on stage, it was pandemonium. I couldn't get that group of 1,800 people in their standing room only around the walls. The fire department was trying to break up the whole thing because it was so crowded, and it was a nightmare for me. But the yelling and applause kept going on, and like the whole program was going to hell in a basket. I finally kept hitting with the gavel. Nobody paid any attention. Suddenly people were trying to get up on stage to shake hands with him or get their picture taken with him. And I finally got some order, and I turned to Lindbergh and I said, "Look, we've got to do everything in an orderly manner." I said, "We've got a program, a lot of awards to be made, and if you're going to be willing to shake hands with people, that's wonderful, but let's set it up later on and have people line up appropriately instead of trying to rush against everybody on stage." And he said, "Whatever you want to do." And I said, "All right." So it worked out. He ended up signing his name. He ended up getting his picture taken, shaking hands with people. And he wrote me a letter from Hong Kong, and he said, "Dear Bob, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to you for getting me out of obscurity." And he said, "It will be a night that I shall never forget." And he said, "I arrived in Hong Kong because the flight was late, and I went to the hotel to check in, and they'd given my room to someone else. And then they had called around and could not find a room for me in Hong Kong." And he said, "I came out of the hotel scratching my head wondering where I was going, and this very nice lady said, 'Well, I know where you can stay. You can stay at my place.' And he said, 'I don't know where I am, but I'm writing this letter in the room because I couldn't go to sleep, and I fear that I might be in a house of ill repute.'"
Bob, you mentioned